My name is Grace Walker. I teach military ethics at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. If you'd asked me a month ago who I was, I would have told you I'm a quiet person with a steady life, someone who buried the past neatly and moved on. My mother, Lieutenant Commander Abigail Walker, died in Iraq in 2003 during a classified SEAL operation. That's what the Navy told us. I was 12 when they folded the flag into my father's hands, said the mission was too sensitive, and that her body would never come home. She became a ghost in our house, more myth than memory. My father never spoke of her death. He just hung her photo in the hallway and saluted it every morning, like he was still taking orders from her. I built my life around that silence. I got my PhD, joined the faculty, and taught cadets about sacrifice and service. Every time I mentioned her name in class, I felt a mix of pride and distance, like she belonged more to history than to me. Then, last month, I was preparing a lecture on accountability and covert missions. The Naval Archives sent me a sealed packet marked Top Clearance, Internal Use Only. I almost didn't open it right away. It looked routine, just a set of evaluation reports from post-conflict units. But when I flipped through the pages, something caught my eye. There it was. A name. Her name, Abigail L. Walker, and next to it, a signature. I stared at that curve in the W, the sharp lift in the K. I knew that handwriting. I'd seen it on birthday cards, report cards, and grocery lists. She left on the fridge. The date below it said August 2022. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. My mother had been dead for nearly 20 years. I'd mourned her. I'd built a life around her absence. But there it was. Her signature. Bold. Recent. Alive. And that was the moment everything changed. Not just because she might be alive, but because someone, somewhere, knew this and kept it buried. I had spent my life teaching others about duty and truth. Now it was my turn to find out what those words really meant. The file wasn't supposed to be anything special. It came in a padded envelope, with my name printed in block letters, and the seal of the Naval Archives stamped on the front. I remember opening it with one hand, while sipping cold coffee with the other, half listening to a podcast playing in the background. Most of the documents were familiar. Evaluation sheets, mission debriefings, and risk assessments from units that had long since disbanded. I scanned them, checking for anything useful for my ethics seminar. Nothing stood out. Not until I hit page 16. That's when the world tilted. At first, I saw the name as just another line in the paperwork. Then something about the spacing made me stop. I went back and read it again, slower this time. Lieutenant Commander Abigail L. Walker, my mother. Her name shouldn't have been there. The document was dated the 12th of August, 2022. 19 years after she supposedly died in the field. The form was an internal inspection report, reviewing personnel still active under restricted clearance. My eyes darted to the bottom of the page. There it was, a signature. The ink was dark, pressed clean into the scanned page. And the handwriting, I knew it instantly. The slant, the way she looped the A like a wave curling in. It was hers. Not a copy, not a forgery, real. I dropped the folder like it burned. My heart thudded in my chest, and for a second, the room felt too quiet, like the air had thickened around me. I closed my laptop and locked the door, suddenly afraid someone might see what I'd seen. For a few minutes, I just sat there, staring at the document on the floor. Every memory I had of my mother's death started to unravel. The folded flag, the closed casket explanation, the silence my father carried for 2 decades. Was it all a lie? I picked the folder back up, trying to convince myself there had to be another Abigail Walker. It's not an uncommon name, but the service ID matched. The date of birth, even the unit number. It was her, or someone pretending to be her, and neither option made sense. The rest of the file didn't help. It referred to Project Echo Span, something I'd never heard of. The report was heavily redacted, entire lines blacked out. The few words I could read mentioned a reassignment, a transfer, and something labeled Priority, level 9, silence. That's when I knew I couldn't let it go. I made a copy of the page, tucked it inside my coat, and left the academy grounds without telling anyone. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I needed to get air. The kind that didn't carry the smell of buried truth. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her signature. The woman who raised me. The soldier who supposedly died with honor. And now, maybe, the survivor of something much darker than war. I drove to his house the next morning without calling first. My hands were still shaking from the night before, the copy of my mother's signature folded tightly in my jacket pocket. I told myself he deserved to know what I'd found. But truthfully, I needed answers, more than he needed warnings. He was in the backyard, trimming the hedges like any other Saturday. When he saw me, his face lit up. Just for a second, like the dad I remembered. That smile disappeared when I held out the page. He didn't take it right away, just looked at it, then at me. His jaw tightened. "Where did you get this?" he asked, but not like someone surprised, more like someone who'd been waiting for it to resurface. I told him everything. The file, the date, the handwriting I would never mistake. I waited for him to deny it, to laugh, to tell me I was reading too much into an old record. But he didn't say anything, just turned his eyes away, staring past me toward the rust-colored trees. "Grace," he said quietly. "Some things were buried for a reason." That sentence hit harder than I expected. I asked if he knew, if he'd known all these years that she might still be alive. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat down on the porch steps, his shoulders heavy, as if the truth itself had weight. Finally, he said, "We served together. That's all I'll say." I asked again, more desperate this time. "Why didn't you tell me? Why let me believe she died?" His eyes found mine, tired and hollow. "Because she wanted you safe. And digging into this, it won't keep you that way." I stood there for a long moment, the silence stretching between us like a chasm. This wasn't just about secrecy. This was about fear. I saw it in his hands, clenched too tightly, in the way his voice cracked when he said her name. He didn't stop me when I turned to go, didn't try to explain or hold me back, just watched, like a man who'd already lost too much and knew more was coming. I got in my car, started the engine, and sat there for a while, listening to the hum. I didn't cry. I couldn't. All I felt was this dull pressure in my chest, like something had cracked, but hadn't broken yet. I didn't know where the road would take me. I only knew I couldn't turn around. Whatever secrets my mother took with her, I was done pretending they didn't matter. I was going to find out who she really was. The deeper I dug, the more things stopped making sense. The signature was just the surface. Beneath it was something darker, tangled in layers of clearance I wasn't supposed to access. I used an old faculty clearance code, one my mentor had passed down years ago. It still worked. It brought me into a side archive, off the main system, marked Eyes Only. That's where I found the name. Operation Darktide. No description, no timeline, just a list of call signs, initials, and a sealed manifest labeled Humanitarian Deployment. Iraq, 2003. One of the names had been blacked out, but the number beside it matched my mother's service ID. I kept digging, cross-referencing every source I could find. The language was vague, but certain phrases stood out. Non-standard payload delivery. Neutralized threat through internal non-compliance. Silence protocol enacted by necessity. Every line read like it was trying to hide something instead of explaining it. Then I found a flagged communication between two commanders. One line made my stomach turn. Darktide shipment passed through undercover. Civilian packages cleared. SEAL Team 7 covered the insertion. No fallout expected. SEAL Team 7. That was my mother's unit, the same one she died with. But what got to me was the date. 3 weeks before the mission that supposedly killed her. And the payload? not food or medical aid. I found a supply requisition under the same operation name, listing containers marked BX93. I looked it up. It didn't exist. Not in any known inventory. Until I found an old internal memo tagged Containment Protocol. BX93 was biological, experimental, weaponized, and someone had hidden it under the label of humanitarian relief. That's when I understood why she might have had to disappear. She wasn't just a casualty of war. She had stood against something no one wanted exposed, and they erased her for it. I wasn't supposed to find the recording. It was buried inside a corrupted zip file in the Navy's legacy drive, mislabeled as training footage. When I finally restored it, the time code blinked, the 3rd of April, 2003, the day they said she died. The footage was grainy, tinted green from the night vision. Voices crackled through static. My mother's voice cut through, steady but tense. "This isn't what we were briefed for," she said. Then silence. Then another voice, clipped and official. "Orders are clear, Lieutenant. Deliver and confirm." She didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice dropped lower. "This crate isn't humanitarian. There's no aid in here. Who gave this order?" The reply was muffled, almost like it was edited. "Not for you to question. Confirm the drop and return." Then came the part that made my blood run cold. "I won't sign off on a lie," she said. "You're asking us to deliver something we don't understand. That's not mission integrity. That's using us." A short scuffle followed. Shouts. A crash. Then someone shouted, "She's compromised. Lock it down." The screen blurred, then froze. But the audio kept rolling for a few more seconds. A single phrase echoed in the darkness. "Initiate phase black. No recovery." Phase black. I had never heard that before. But I didn't need a definition. I knew what it meant. She didn't die from enemy fire. She was silenced. On purpose. The recording ended with static. I sat in the dark, staring at the paused frame where her voice had first broken protocol. That wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. A moral line she wouldn't cross. In that moment, everything I believed about her death twisted into something brutal and calculated. She didn't fall in battle. She stood alone in it. And they erased her because she said no. I drove to my father's house that night. The phase black recording was on a secure drive in my bag. This was no longer a sad mystery. It was an execution. He was in his study, the room dark except for the green glow of an old-fashioned desk lamp. He looked up as I entered, and this time, the weary look was gone. He looked cornered. "You found it, didn't you?" he said. It wasn't a question. "I found the recording, Dad. I found phase black." He closed his eyes. For a full minute, the only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. "I didn't know what it was," he whispered. "Not at first. I just knew she was being erased. She called me one last time. Said dark tide is a lie. Don't let them bury me." Then the line went dead. I felt the anger rise, cold and sharp. "You let me mourn her. You saluted her picture. You let me build my entire life on a lie. It was the only way to protect you," he shot back, his voice finally cracking. "To protect her. Her death was my only move. I traded my silence for her life. I used my contacts to get her out, to give her a new name, a new history, to bury her so deep no one could ever find her. Not even you." "Where is she?" I demanded. "I don't know," he said. And I saw the truth of it in his eyes. That was the deal. To keep you both safe. I could never know. I have spent 20 years saluting that photo, Grace, mourning a woman I knew was alive, all to keep the monsters who signed that order from ever looking for her. We sat in the silence, the truth finally exposed. He wasn't a co-conspirator. He was a prisoner. I looked down at the secure drive in my hand. "I teach ethics, Dad. I teach cadets about accountability. What do I do with this?" This was my ethical dilemma. I could go public, clear her name, but in doing so, I would be signing her death warrant by confirming she was still alive, and I would destroy my father for his cover-up. Or I could stay silent, just like him. You can't, he said, reading my mind. If you go public, they'll find her. The men who signed that order are still in power. So we do nothing? I asked. We let them win? We let her stay a ghost? My father stood and walked to his desk. He pulled out a small locked box. I said I didn't know where she was. I never said I couldn't reach her. He unlocked the box. Inside was an old satellite phone. Once a year, on your birthday, I send a single, coded signal. Just one word. Safe. And once a year she sends one back. Quiet. We haven't spoken in 2 decades, but she's out there. He looked at me, his eyes clear for the first time. I'm done being quiet. It's time to bring her home. But we can't do it with a bomb, Grace. We have to do it with a scalpel. We didn't go to the press. We didn't go to the Inspector General. My father made one call. To a man he'd served with. Someone who owed him a life debt. Someone now high up at the Pentagon. We requested a private, formal review. Just 4 people in a secure room. No record. No minutes. We played the Phase Black recording. We presented the BX-93 manifests. The admiral on the other side of the table didn't speak for a long time. He just steepled his fingers and stared at the evidence. Finally, he looked at my father. What you did, helping her disappear, was treason. I know, my father said. And what they did, the admiral said, nodding to the file, was worse. The investigation moved fast and silently. Public hearings never happened. Instead, 2 high-ranking officials quietly retired. Operation Darktide was declassified, its contents redacted, but its illegality confirmed. 3 months later, the Naval Academy held a private memorial. No cameras, no press, just rows of white uniforms, a folded flag on display, and a name carved into stone. Lieutenant Commander Abigail L. Walker, SEAL Team 7. The official record was amended. Her KIA status was changed to died in the line of duty, resisting an illegal order. Her honor was restored. I stood at the podium, the same place I used to teach from. But this time, my lesson was real. She didn't die in silence, I said. She died, refusing to stay silent. The hall was still. Then a single cadet stood and saluted. Others followed. No orders. No command. Just respect. My father was there, standing quietly in the back. He didn't speak, but he didn't need to. For the first time, his eyes didn't carry the weight of secrets. Widow's Bay was quiet that morning. The tide was low, and the sky hung soft with clouds. I stood at the edge of the dock, an urn in my hands, the sea, waiting. My father stood beside me. A week after the ceremony, she had contacted him. The last signal. It's done, he sent. Come home. The reply came 2 days later. I am home. She had passed away 3 years prior, in a small fishing village in Nova Scotia. She had lived a quiet life. She had died free. Her ashes had been waiting for us, left with a local lawyer, along with a letter. I opened it. Her handwriting was steady, clear. Honor isn't what they give you. It's what you keep when no one's watching. If the truth costs everything, keep it anyway. I read it aloud, the words carried off by the wind. Then my father and I released the ashes together, watching them drift into the water. The sea took her gently this time. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't broken, but because I finally understood. She hadn't just left to protect me. She had stayed hidden to protect what she believed in. As the last of her faded into the tide, I felt a warmth settle in my chest. Not the kind that burns, but the kind that stays. Like a promise kept. She was gone, but the silence she carried had spoken, and now it would never be buried again.